Victor, always good to see you. Thanks for joining us again.
It's good to be here.
You know, you had some very moving comments about Charlie Kirk after his assassination. I know that he was supposed to speak at a conference in Colorado. Talk to us. I mean, this would have been the day after his assassination, correct?
That is correct. Truth and Liberty Conference up in the mountain. And, let me just start back with what I think impacted me the most. I think what people don't understand is how no one expected Charlie to be killed, and in such a violent way. I mean, he lived with threats, but that's what still I'm trying to work through, because Charlie, he knew how to surround himself with really good men, and he called me a mentor on some things. But my book, Dangerous Gentleman, it calls it calls to live completely abandoned, to deny yourself, to follow Christ, to do the right thing in the face of danger. And he lived it every day. So I think that's what hit me, Sean, is, someone following the principles that I teach in that book, it ended up costing his life.
It's interesting that you describe it that way, because I've said something similar where I know this sounds completely weird 2 weeks later, but I feel like someday I feel like the next day I'm going to wake up and someone's going to go, "Hey, we made a mistake." Like, I don't know why that sounds so nuts to say, but I'm still processing the fact that maybe it's because I see all these videos every time I click on social media, and I'm like, he's got to still be here. I can hear him every day. And I just also can't get over the fact that somebody would actually do this. So I get exactly what you're saying. I don't know. I mean, I've dealt with people who have had my father passed away from cancer. And so I watched him, and it was almost like I accepted it because I watched it happen. Because he was taken by an assassin, I don't know. Like, I know that sounds nuts. I just feel like somehow someone's going to say, we made a mistake. It was actually, it's not as bad. Like, I don't know why, but I'm processing it myself.
Yeah. It's that denial part of grief, I think, where there's been many mornings I woke up and I'm like, okay, it did happen. And, I had to get off social media for a bit, because of seeing so many clips. Yeah. I was just like, I got to take a break from this.
So I'll tell you what my takeaway has been, and I want to hear yours. Someone was telling me the other day about something, and I'd rather not get in. It was a personal matter. And I said, do me a favor, call them and tell them, because they were saying something. I said, what's happened? What made me think of the whole thing with Charlie is, I woke up, we were texting back and forth about something, and I had said to somebody, you know what, I will follow up with Charlie on Friday or whatever. I don't want to bother him because I know he's doing whatever. And so this individual that I know is going through something with another individual, and they were talking to me about it. And I said, do me a favor, just call them now. Just call them. And I said, because what the last week has taught me is you just don't know when that last conversation is going to happen, and you don't want to have regrets that something happened on your end, their end, and I feel like that's sort of my new thing is stop procrastinating on having conversations, doing things that you're supposed to, because you never know.
You know what? What a great life lesson to take away from this. And again, it's the right thing to do when people have, whether disagreements or bad communication. It's like, men just need to engage and go, hey, I want to clarify. I want to make sure. Or, I had a very well-known ministry leader at the time come up to me at a conference, and he walked right up to me and he goes, do we have a problem? And I went, I don't think so. He goes, then how come you won't speak at my conferences? I said, because I don't believe in your approach to reach men. I don't think it's the most effective use of my time. And, to his credit, he looked around and he goes, actually, I'm not sure I believe it either. That little exchange right there helped him be honest with how he felt. And he had the courage to confront me but it wasn't derogatory. It wasn't like, hey, you want to step outside? He was just like, dude, why won't you speak at my events? And I appreciated him for doing that. And you know what? He's no longer the president of that organization. So that exchange between two men in the hallway of a conference was rich. Great takeaway. No weird feelings. So yeah, I definitely think just being direct but polite is the best approach.
Guys, it is getting to be a little bit cooler out. The summer is officially over. We're into fall. Some of you have the windows open, but you know what I'm talking about. It gets a little chillier at night. This is when the sheets matter most because you're actually snuggling in the sheets. Listen, I can say that. I'm comfortable enough saying that. But you know what I'm talking about. I love the sheets. When I go to a really nice hotel, if I'm at an event, I always look forward to getting to bed. I finally figured out how to do that at home. You know how? Boll and Branch sheets. It is unbelievable. It's like staying at the fanciest hotel in your house now. And I'm telling you, if you want a good night's sleep, having a great pair of sheets is critical. For a limited time, you can get 20% off, 20% at bollandbranch.com/Spicer. You have to enter this exactly. Boll, A-N-D, branch.com/Spicer, bollandbranch.com/Spicer, 20% off and free shipping, bollandbranch.com. So in what we were just talking about, I totally get why you use that example. And I'm with you. Like, I tend to be like, hey, you want to know why? Because you were rude to me 5 times. And I mean, like, I'm a believer that let's get it out. I'm very, to some degree, sometimes too blunt about things. You know, you said something, but like, let's hash it out and we'll either agree to disagree or we get over it. Right. But I want to pull on something, another thread about what you just said, because I struggle with this too. I get asked to do a lot of things. Can you appear on this podcast? Can you come to my radio show? Can you speak at my conference? Right. And the business side of me says what you just said. That's not the highest and best use of my time. I'm really not I don't buy into what you guys are doing. Right. And then I think, so I'm with you right now for the most part. Okay. But then what I've also thought about this past week is I hear these stories about like a 12-year-old kid with 3 followers going up to Charlie Kirk and saying, would you be on my podcast? And Charlie goes, yeah. And I go, oh God, I'm like, now I feel like a jerk because this person asked me to come speak to this thing. Yes, it had 8 people, but to them, that would have meant the world. And these kids, well, I watch them now and they're 15, 16, 18, 20 years old. And they say 4 years ago, I had nothing. Charlie Kirk said, I'll come speak to your conference. I'll come do this. Where's that balance that you have? Because I'll put this on you so maybe you can help me. Like, where is the balance between what you and I just talked about, highest and best use of our time, versus doing what Charlie did, which was say, hey, I'll go make a difference in your life so that you go out there and are a better activist or evangelist?
Yeah, great question. You know, I would say prayer. Simply asking the Lord, what would you have me do? You know, I've spoken in stadiums and I've spoken in a cell with one kid who was locked up as a juvenile. And I felt the pleasure of God in both places. So it's that, to me, you know, our greatest commodity we have is time over anything else. So it's like I've turned down very lucrative speaking events because I just thought, no, I just don't feel that's what I'm supposed to do. So, you know, Charlie was a praying man. He wasn't always, but he sure got there where he wanted what God's will was for him every day. And sometimes it's sacrificial. You know what gets me about what you just said? And thank God are you a baseball fan at all?
I'm a Red Sox fan.
Okay. Willie Mays.
Yep.
When I was like in 5th grade, I used to work at these minor league stadiums selling Cokes and peanuts. My mom was single. I'd go over there. I'm just trying to earn money because we were pretty broke. One day, you know, someone hit a ball into the parking lot. I remember crawling underneath the fence, putting my goodies down, grabbed the ball, come back, and I had a ball. Somebody said, Willie Mays is up in the announcer's booth. I didn't know who he was. And I said, who is he? Oh, he's a famous baseball player. So I went up there, knocked on the door. A guy opened. I said, is Willie Mays here? He said, yeah, what do you want? I said, I got a fly ball. Can you sign it? And then he came and he took 2 minutes to talk to me. he kind of laughed because I think he knew I was slower than a bag of dirt. And he signed the ball. And I'll never forget, he took time to talk to me, nobody else around. That's what I try to remember when people say, hey, oh my gosh, they hear me talk, or can I get a picture? Or I'm like, yeah. And I take just a moment because it could mean the world to someone else.
I know. I agree. And I always struggle with, when is that person going to do something great? But that kind of goes to the other point. You've been out there preaching for a while. You're a filmmaker. You're an author. You've done all these amazing things. I looked at what Charlie did, and I turned 54 this week. I know I don't look it.
Happy birthday.
But thank you very much. And I think to myself, I'm 23 years older than this guy, and he's packing a stadium with people so moved to change their lives, to do something because of what he did with no college degree in 31 years. And I honestly, Victor, I feel a little ashamed. I'm like, what will someone say at 54? Will there be 100 people at my funeral? Will anyone say, well, I mean, I think people will come probably because, they're related to me. But I wonder if they'll come because I did something to make their life better, which is what all those people, I bet you a fraction of them in that stadium the other day even had ever met him. But they came because he moved them.
I think we all run in our own lanes, and the Bible's clear about each person will produce different levels of fruit, some small, some big. And Charlie's lane was to go big, full throttle. And believe me, I would see him, I've taken a trip with him to different universities. I saw how he did what he did. And I thought, man, Lord, that's not me. I'm glad you don't. But he loved hanging around me because he's like, did you just get back from Iraq rescuing somebody? I'm like, yeah. And that was as natural to me as him doing these schools or filling up stadiums. So here's the other thing. That's what I've been thinking about, Sean. Do you know why he was so popular, in my opinion, at universities? It wasn't because he had all the answers, and it wasn't because he was nice or kind. He was actually kind to people, not nice. I think the reason he was so popular is that he actually took the time to talk with students.
Yeah.
And most of those students were just hurting. They'd come at him, vomiting, but they knew Charlie Kirk is spending time with me. He's dialoguing. I think young men and women of this generation are so desperate for connection that they'll throw temper tantrums, they'll dress weird, they'll do crazy stuff just to say, do you see me? Yeah. Do you know I exist? I'm hurting so bad. And I know that's what Charlie did. He actually cared about the individuals.
It was so interesting with all this success. You mentioned this a second ago. With all the success that he had, he could have been at the top of the world. People are coming; they want to talk to him, like you mentioned. These kids who are making a difference, and here he is. You have a great story that I want to play for people. You're on the plane with him, and he comes to you and says, "Victor, I want you to mentor me. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Let me play the clip."
We were with Erica these last few days. When people say, I didn't know you knew him so well, I chuckle thinking back to a trip I took with him to multiple campuses. We loaded up on the plane and he comes up to me and says, can I sit next to you? I said, well, Charlie, it's your jet. You can sit anywhere you want. He sat down and I was humbled and shocked, honestly, when he leaned to me and said, Victor, would you mentor me? I said, Charlie, what's that mean to you? It's not an easy path. My goal is to make dangerous gentlemen. 3 things I remember that he absolutely applied that I taught him was making decisions. Don't ever make a decision based on fear. And Charlie dealt with fear just like anybody else. But what he had was the antidote to fear, which is courage, which is to engage to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Next is don't make decisions based on your ego or pride. So many do that, and it's such a waste of an equation to make the right decision. And the last one is don't make decisions based on comfort or ease, because that's poison to do the right thing when it needs to be done. But I know with that the ultimate decision may have to be made. And Charlie was willing to risk in order to do what was right.
So, Victor, was it that? I mean, what else did he want? He wants to be mentored. I mean, obviously, you've got this ministry. You're amazing with a gun. What was it that he wanted from you?
You know, I think he really loved pursuing the dangerous gentleman approach to life. He was a gentleman. He was a scholar. But, you know, he loved masculinity. And that was one of his big things, to be masculine. How do you treat your wife, your children? How do you treat others? And I think that's some of the things he pulled most from me. Getting in shape, conditioning, following a mantra we have, be mission ready. You know, every man should be able to pull their wife out of a burning house or car accident or stand up and protect their family. And I think that's what he drew from me. And then just, I don't know, I definitely live outside of the box of some Christians' point of view, and even some conservatives who, you know, might not agree with my approach, but the fruit stands for itself.
What do you mean by that? Like, what would someone take issue with, do you think?
Well, I've had people say, hey, when you go overseas, are you rescuing Christian kids? I go, well, I'll rescue any kid or help any kid or woman that needs help. Muslim, Christian, Yazidi, Orthodox, it doesn't matter to me, because children are children. And I've had people say, well, aren't you converting those Muslims? I go, not really. You know, I'm not good at it. If I convert them, maybe they can convert back. But they know what I believe, because I'm not just speaking the gospel. Sometimes I'm reduced to living it in a way that changes things. And so, yeah, I'll tell you this. In ministry and Christendom, there's this fleshly, weird jealousy that can rise up. You've had the experience in your life where you started reaching certain levels of success, what you would deem success, and then people who are your friends or colleagues, they get envious, and they're like, well, you know, oh, it's like, man, few understand the price that has to be paid to be effective in what you're doing at whatever level. So, yeah, it's just being your thumbprint. Just be who God made you to be, unique. Take the best you can from others, but just be you. And I think that's kind of my philosophy. You know, men can find out more. There's a website called the Dangerous Gentleman Society, just Dangerous Gentleman Society. They can go there, sign up. I send out a daily. It's called a mission brief. It's literally like a 90-second read, but it's how I mentor men by the thousands every day.
All right, we'll definitely go there. You had a great takeaway from Charlie Kirk, his farewell. I want to play that for folks to give you a sense of what we're talking about.
My life to you, I believe you're the Son of God, and you died on the cross.
Because there will come a day where your kids read about this moment and they'll ask you, what did you do? I'm living for God. I'm not turning back.
This is a spiritual battle, and it is time to wake up.
For the very first time yesterday, I grabbed the Bible.
Let's just pray right now. God, we just pray right now. In Jesus' name, the name above all names, that the enemy will not win. He will not win what the enemy is meant for evil. God will use for good. He will continue to be that voice. He will continue to be the messenger. And he will continue to be able to be the father to his babies and husband to his wife. That's what we declare and decree right now over Charlie. In Jesus' name. In Jesus' name.
I just want to speak the name of Jesus.
Victor, that's obviously a very powerful video that you put up on Instagram. Charlie Kirk was talking about reading our Bibles, being an evangelist, going out there, getting married, fighting for America. You've been at this business of ministering people for a long time. And as you mentioned, thousands and thousands of people. What I thought was so unique about this past week that you had there in your video, people grabbing a Bible, going to church for the first time, something deep was inside of them that said, I need to do something. There's something missing in me now.
Yeah, it's, this is the 9/11 of this generation. And what's different for this generation, it's very, very personalized. It's not a building where people died. It's an individual they saw murdered, assassinated. And I was speaking to a group of young men, and he said, why it's hit us so hard is he could be in our room right now. He's our age.
Yeah.
And I think that's that, plus there's been so much chaos in our country, and Charlie's voice was so resolute and clear and common sense. So for people to see his life taken in such an evil, horrific way, the Bible says, choose this day whom you're going to serve. People know there's good and evil, light and darkness. And I think that's what's happened. I think people are just going, there's no middle ground. Like the young lady said, there's a spiritual war going on. And there is indeed.
Probably the most moving moment that I have ever seen, and I reckon probably ever will, was when Erica Kirk offered forgiveness up at that tribute funeral memorial to Charlie. What I think astounded me more than anything is that this individual, this assassin, has not asked for forgiveness yet. And there is a bit of a debate in my head going on right now. If you think about when Jesus was on the cross, there were two people, one to his right, one to his left. One individual asked him for forgiveness, and Jesus granted it to them, but he actually granted it to both. Now, I'm Irish, and I have a little pettiness to me, I'll admit it. So I actually am a believer that when someone asks for forgiveness, that's when we give it to them. But what struck me about Erica was that she offered the forgiveness before it was even asked for. Where should we come down on this? I'm struggling, man.
Yeah, what a great question. And so much of the ministry I have is based on one word, forgiveness, because I was tortured as a kid and left for dead, and required 123 visits to a trauma specialist. And the thing that saved my soul is coming into a relationship with Christ, being forgiven for my sins, things I've done wrong, and being restored to the Father. That's why Christ died on the cross. But here's my definition of forgiveness. It's giving up our right to hurt someone back for hurting us. It does not exclude justice and it doesn't give the person a right to be reconciled back to you. But it does protect our own hearts from becoming hard. And when a person's heart gets hard, Erica risked having a heart become hard, mixed with vengeance, but realizing, well, can't be vengeance, but it can be justice. And justice will be served. But oftentimes forgiveness for others is more about us, whether they ask for it or not. It's us making sure our heart doesn't get hard. Because if it does, Sean, we cannot receive love that people want to give us. And we certainly can't give love that they need, because part of our heart is just hard from unforgiveness and bitterness. So I always say, I believe in forgiveness. I believe in justice. Ask ISIS. There are consequences to people's choices, just like this shooter. And Erica modeled for the world to see that darkness will not win. And I'll tell you, brother, when the grace of God is on a widow whose husband was murdered like that, it's a powerful thing, but it's also very dangerous to forces of darkness.
It makes me feel petty to even suggest this, because I had thought to myself all week long with this whole Jimmy Kimmel thing. And one of the points that I made is Jimmy hasn't even asked for forgiveness. He didn't apologize. And I have a hard time. And now, having heard what you said, I'm now going, maybe that's not, like, regardless of what he does. And I don't even know that it was my place to give forgiveness. He didn't offend me. I mean, as a supporter, he did. As someone who cares about the truth, he did. But maybe it's really not even my place to ask for forgiveness from a guy like that.
Well, for Jimmy, all it did was expose his heart. When someone doesn't ask for forgiveness when they know they've offended, it exposes their heart. And their heart will just continue to get harder and darker unless they allow God to soften it. So, yeah, it's what can be a landmine in the realm of offense and forgiveness is that we get stuck trying to figure out our emotions, and then we transfer anger onto someone else when we're trying to figure it all out, instead of staying focused on the mission ahead. What are we meant to do? What has God called me to do? I got to get back up and go, versus stay hyper-focused. And sometimes people, you can over-focus on a problem when there may be no solution. I tell people there's no wisdom in sin, and there's no understanding. Sin and evil are just that, sin and evil. So you can't reckon it. You can just forgive, prepare to protect against it, and let consequences take their natural course. There are people I've forgiven that if they tried to come to my property, I'd draw a weapon on them. Somebody tried to kill me, a couple of years ago here. And that wasn't, I don't even have to, look, I was speaking to a group of men who do a lot of killing professionally. And I just said, hey, you don't have to hate your enemy to eliminate them. You could hear, sometimes hurting people's feelings, they got to be hurt. There's no way around it. By their choice, not ours, but there was a collective sigh because some men had got caught up in this heated, I got to hate this combative enemy in order to smoke them. And it's like, they don't. Yeah. I mean, I've looked at people who wanted to hurt me. I've smiled and punched them while I was smiling. And they were like, what the heck was that? Just a warning shot. I said, I don't have to hate you to hurt you. So I would create distance if I was you.
Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.